Buenos dias! Jews News Briefs, June 17th, 2011, the 15th day of Sivan on the Hebrew calendar. We are live from Jews News World Headquarters. We have a phenomenal show today. This is our last show before Shabbat. We're not going to be here tomorrow. Here's our theme song from David Dome. That never gets old. You're probably wondering why I didn't lead in with Shalom today. I said Buenos dias. My outreach team here thought it would be nice to do a little outreach to the people around the world that are watching the show. So apparently Buenos dias means good day in Polish. And I'd like to thank all the Polish people. Apparently I'm a huge star in Poland. I'd like to thank them for watching the show. And please keep sharing the show, my fellow Poles. Alright, so our sponsor today is biggerbidder.com. It's an auction website. You have nothing to lose on this site. Any money that you spend and you don't win one of their auctions, you can use that money on their second chance mall. So check out the site, it's phenomenal. Alright, as usual, I have Grains of Sand here by Schiffer Shomron. You have to go and buy this book. You'll see what was going through the minds of people before they were being expelled by their own fellow Jews, and the biggest, black stain on this country that I think I've ever seen. All right, good morning and welcome to IBN News Broadcasting in Jerusalem. Last night, over 400 Israelis were arrested while committing acts of countrywide civil disobedience, in which 30 major thoroughfares were blocked. What this means is there were a lot of Jews in this country that said, you know what? I'm not just going to sit by as my idiotic government expels 9,000 of my fellow Jews for absolutely no reason. And they did something about it. And these people were all put in jail. They were treated more harshly than, they treat any of our enemies in current times. And it was a big mitzvah that these people did. And Gush Katif happened anyway. Now everybody in this country that has a brain can see it was the biggest failure. We've got nothing but missiles and rockets and terror since then. So we need to smarten up and realize that we're not going to get peace by giving away land that God specifically said, you're not allowed to give away. This is our country. Alright, so today in Jewish history, thank you Marty Murphy for always sending me this. At the decree of Pope Gregory IX, who was one of the most rabid anti-Semites of all time, and King Louis, all copies of the Talmud were confiscated in Paris, declaring that the reason for the stubbornness of the Jewish people was their study of the Talmud. This was in 1242. And about, 850 years later, we have a large percentage of Jews that think that our best friends in the whole world are the Christians and that Israel couldn't possibly exist without Christian support, which it's a good thing I have Ralph here because that sentiment makes me absolutely want to puke. Alright, we're going to do our top story and then we're going to do some Jewish stuff. Let's dive right into the top story. You're probably going to say, this doesn't really seem that important, but to me it is, because you'll see why in next week's Parsha why this is so important. We have a Labour Party Knesset member. Labour is a far-left party. They used to have a ton of seats. Now they have virtually none because many people in this country smarten up to the fact that voting for complete idiots is not the way to go. So this Knesset member was in America, and he said that the officials that he spoke to told him that the Prime Minister of Israel, Prime Minister Netanyahu, is not thought about highly at all in America right now because he left behind a scorched earth on his last trip to America. The Prime Minister's statement following the Obama speech distorted reality and ignored the President's world. Who cares? Herzog said. Netanyahu's lecture at the White House was good in political terms, yet the style insulted the President and his people. We have to worry now about insulting President, Hussein Obama? This guy hasn't done enough against the Jewish people that even the far left liberal idiots, these morons in America that voted for him, can't maybe smarten up and say, you know what, maybe being Jewish and maybe Israel is a little more important than any liberal agenda, that was the reason why I voted for this guy? I mean, this is important to me, and this is why this is my top story, because we have a minister of our Knesset going to another country, slandering our own Prime Minister to suck up, to kiss the tush of a president that virtually no one can say is not the most belligerent president that Israel has ever seen. That is why this is my top story. That is why this has embarrassed me so much. This really, really bothers me. And maybe you'll see a few months down the road why this is such a big deal, that it warrants being the top story. Because we don't just give out top stories lightly on the show. We have a responsibility to the Jewish people to give them, some pretty amazing news. So I want to know what you have to think about this. Because slandering our own Prime Minister in another country that's been nothing but hostile towards us, I think is a very big blight on Israel and the Jewish people. And I'm very embarrassed and ashamed that this person would do this. Alright, so in yesterday's show I talked about an IDF soldier that had rocks pelted at him, that broke his leg. While he was down on the ground, the leftist Jews and the Muslims still pelted him with rocks, and the soldiers came and, did their usual, let's see how many pigeons we can kill by firing in the sky. So, I'm only going to read one quote because we don't have time. Time for the IDF to rebel against such blank. I can't say that word, we're a PG-13 show, so I'm not allowed to say that, but you have a pretty good idea where I'm going with that. Against such blank regulations on restraint. It's time for a revolution in this country. That's what this person says. I completely agree. The rules of engagement for the IDF is embarrassing. They're taking the world's strongest army and they're pretty much putting one hand behind their back, and with the other hand they're telling them to punch yourself in the face. And that's just not right. We need to be strong in this country because you see in this next one, the Navy practiced for the next flotilla, and they videotaped it to show the world, look, we're this tough, strong Navy. That's just in the video. Last year they, propelled down onto these boats with paintball guns. Paintball guns, if you shoot someone in the face with a paintball gun from like 3 inches away, fine, I'll admit, that might hurt. Why would you send commandos onto a boat that now we have pictures that these people were armed with guns and knives and bats and, iron batons with paintball guns? You know how embarrassing that is? You know what should happen to IDF leadership? They should be jailed for treason. These people put the lives of Jews at risk for no reason. To what? To protect the people on these boats that are coming in? This is disgusting. I need to change the mazel of the show. So I want to wish a very, very hearty mazel tov to my best friend and my former roommate from yeshiva who got engaged on Wednesday. This just goes to show he is a role model to all people out there. Because if you beg, cry, and plead enough to any girl, you too can get engaged. So mazal tov to my good friend Dave Turan for his engagement. A wonderful simcha. The only problem is that now I might have to go back to America for his wedding, which is something that I don't want to do. I really never want to step foot on that soil again. But for my friend, it's a mitzvah, so you're allowed to leave Israel only for a mitzvah in certain situations. So mazal tov to Dave. I also like to wish my cousin a happy 33rd birthday. She used to be my business partner. When we were 6 years old, we owned an imaginary eyeglass store. And we ended up having a bitter dispute, and it almost tore the family apart because I wanted to go global, and she wanted to stay, just within the confines of the United States. We had a huge falling out, but we ended up realizing that blood is thicker than Pepsi, and we decided that for the betterment of our families that we would just sell the business. We made a huge, huge profit, and we moved on. So happy birthday, Jen, who turns 33 today. Alright, so in ridiculous news, a medical intern that works at a hospital in Sfat, which is a Jewish city, was one of the ones arrested for throwing rocks at soldiers along the Syrian border. Is this the guy you want pricking you with a needle? Is this the guy you want giving you, oh hey Jew boy, just take this drug, I promise you it won't kill you. This guy needs to be fired, this guy needs to be deported. If he wants to like Syria so much, pick him up, plop him on the other side of the border, and he can worry about getting run over a tank, or shot in the head by his own government, like it's been happening for the last 6 weeks in Syria. Alright, in sad news, Baruch Dayanet, 4 people were killed and 49 were wounded in Netanya yesterday when a massive explosion rocked this 4-story building. At first, obviously the first inclination was it a terrorist attack. It turns out that it was a massive gas leak. May Hashem grant all the neshemot in Aliyah, and may the ones that are wounded, may He give them a speedy recovery. This is very, very sad news. And in, pathetic news, Egypt now wants to cancel the peace treaty with Israel, which everyone knows was bound to happen. One of the bigger parties in Egypt says that their actual platform, one of the big things on their platform for the next election is the cancellation of the Camp David Accords. It says that it is their top priority. An overwhelming majority of Egyptians do not want the peace treaty with Israel. You're going to see in the next year or two that things with Egypt are going to absolutely start to explode, and a border that we thought was quote-unquote friendly is going to turn into an absolute nightmare. If you think we have friends out there, we don't. We made friends with one leader who ruled his country with an iron fist for 30 years. Well, that leader is now gone. Just like the leader in Jordan is going to be gone. The leader anywhere that we make a peace with is gone, which is why making peace with the quote-unquote Palestinians is the stupidest thing in the world. You don't make peace with leaders, you make peace with people. And when those people, I say that literally in, sarcastically in their case, they don't want peace with us. Any poll that's ever been taken, the overwhelming majority do not want peace, which is why there's a new thing in Israel. They're having a push now for a one-state solution, meaning Israel annexes Judea and Samaria, and we say, you know, you want to stay here and actually, you know, not try and kill us? Fine, maybe we'll give you rights. If not, we're not going to give you anything, because you don't deserve rights. And you know what? You don't even have rights in any of the other countries, like Egypt and Jordan, that still keep you in refugee camps. Alright, so the House of Representatives member, Anthony, I'm going to say his name's Weiner. I'm hoping it's not Wiener, because that would be very, very ironic. Apparently, he resigned because of this whole, like, sexting scandal that he did, which is a good thing because it keeps him out of the spotlight. It keeps this monster, you know, desecration of Judaism out of the spotlight. Now the next thing he needs to do is divorce his Muslim wife. Alright, so my Torah tidbit for today is a great one. Actually, no, I'm going to do the Jewish quote first. I don't endorse this quote, I just thought it was cute, and I like to keep things light before Shabbat. So the quote is, God couldn't be everywhere. You know that he can't, but God couldn't be everywhere, so he created mothers. Thought that was a very adorable quote, so I was going to read that in the show. And my Torah tidbit is, we all know that what tzitzit are. They're the strings that observant Jews, well, every Jew should wear, but observant Jews wear. It says in the Shema that we're supposed to wear tzitzit. So tzitzit actually has a numerical value of 600. We know that every letter of Judaism also has a numerical equivalent, like Aleph is 1, Bet is 2, all the way up to, you know, Tav being 400. So tzitzit is 600. There's 8 strings on the tzitzit, which equals 608, and then there's 5 knots, equals 613. And we all know that there's 613 commandments in Judaism, so that is what tzitzit symbolizes. The 5 knots are a reminder of the 5 books of the Torah, and the 8 strings are a reminder for us to restrain the 8 organs of the body that tend to lead us to sin. Alright, so here's my happy time segment of the day. Everyone knows that I live in a settlement. Jews News World Headquarters is not located in a big city like you think. It is located in a settlement. And apparently now, they're trying to take the power away for settlement control from Ehud Barak, who absolutely detests us, who is one of the most left-wing and disgraceful people in Israel. Here's a level of, so you can see the absolute desecration. He commanded his soldiers during Ramadan not to smoke, not to eat in front of Muslims because it would offend them. He commands his soldiers to rip down Jewish structures on Shabbat. So having sympathy and compassion for the Muslims, fine. For his own Jewish people, he commands against it. Anyway, so he has control over, approving construction in the quote-unquote West Bank, as the morons like to call it, in Judea and Samaria. The cabinet is now expected to vote to curtail this power because they're thinking, why does one of the world's biggest desecrators of Judaism, of Israel, of logic, why does he have the power to approve construction in the settlement? And another thing that's amazing is that the settlement of Ophrah, which was the first settlement, they're now saying that they're going to expand that settlement. The land of Ophrah is just, there's so much empty land. They could build another 30,000 homes there. So now they're actually going to start expanding that settlement, which is absolutely amazing. And another great thing, there's just a lot of great news today, is that a poll just came out that the majority of Israelis now have a much favorable view of the quote-unquote settlers than they did before. And there's such a small, tiny percent, only 5% of Israelis in this poll want to evacuate all the settlements. And another poll just came out that said 5% of Israelis are stupid idiots that have no brains, which I thought was an interesting parallel. Alright, let's see what else we have here. After 2 months of quiet, another Qassam rocket was fired from Gaza, and as you can tell, the Israeli response was absolutely ferocious. We did nothing. Not one thing. We did nothing. We didn't even bomb a tunnel this time. We sat there and took it, like the bully that lets the weakling slap him in the face. Alright, now final story. Glenn Beck is doing this big thing in Jerusalem, which I find disgraceful. I mean, it's going to be a good event. I find it disgraceful that Glenn Beck has to do it. Why isn't a Jew not doing this? Tomorrow Shabbat, we're not going to be here. Remember, it's not news unless it's Jews news.